having heard from the mother before, I'm the would-be father. My first son will be born in August. So I'll give you the male perspective. No, I'm not. Let's deal with this debate, strange debate that happened on the government bench. Because when the closing team spends a lot of time in their extension speaker opposing the argument from opening opposition, and then go on to shaft the whole opening government, you really wonder what they're standing for in this debate. So let's look at closing team first, because they were bigger and louder in general. Because Parish said this, he said, in closing, we're going to talk about the bigger issues in this debate. I don't know what she talked about. She said society's perspective. And she said this on two levels at 5 minutes, 27 seconds. Common law, and dropped it. Because generally people should understand, it's a big issue, society, common law. That's the argument. And then she did this amazing leap in logic. She said, by agreeing to the extension argument, common law, we will make, quote unquote, unwanted child wanted again. This, having earlier conceded, favoritism exists in families anyway. One child is always favored over the other. But somehow this proposition, extension, will make unwanted child wanted again. I really tried listening very hard, and I listened very well. But I couldn't hear anything in support of that extension argument. Omar then took on the real big issues by talking really loud, big words. And had opening up confused for a while, but didn't fall for that. What did Omar tell you? Because he said this extension is to remove, firstly he argued that the opposition stance giving women the right to decide means we remove all responsibilities from men. And we never said that. In fact, opening Gov supported that because men contribute equally, financially, emotionally, and everything else. So that was wrong. Secondly, he said, what is wrong with giving men an equal right to decide? And this is where the debate actually hinged on, because you don't give men an equal right to decide by their proposition. You give men the absolute right to decide over women. And this is where the battle differs. Because if you let men decide on pregnancy, and this is where I'm going to draw some link to what opening talked about, because this debate largely assumes that every baby is born out of consent, or every baby is made out of consent. That means every time men and women get together, they will decide first, before doing it, are we going to have a baby? Or are we going to make baby tonight? Because sometimes they don't intend to make the baby and the baby comes out. And this is where abortion normally happens. Not like what opening government told you, that they decide together they're going to have a baby, and suddenly you're going to decide, maybe not. And then you say, it's my absolute right and you want to abort. Yes?
Dr. Chandra, the question is not what happens, the question is what if it happens, and what is then done about it?
Oh, you should know better that a debate is never argued what if, because for equal what if you say, I'll say what if not, right? So you don't win that argument. And the best thing that Omar said in the third argument to support is that by this extension, they will make sure that in the case of deadlock, and this is interesting because opening said when men and women can't decide, they will bring in the extensions. Not the extensions, but extended family, society. They all will now have society meeting to decide whether the baby would be born. This is the support system opening talk about. Omar said, by giving men that right, he would now be entirely responsible for the child, which I can take it. But then he added on, also for the postpartum depression. Now, how does that happen? How does a man decide that, okay, we're going to have this baby, and when women go through depression after delivery, the man is going to be responsible for that as well? What does he do? Take on that depression and say, okay, give it to me. I'll be depressed now because I'm bound by law to be depressed because I agree not to abort. Sit up, abort. Let's look at the interesting opening government, whose right to life only happens at times. and you know from that this debate you're not going to win it, because the child has the right only if both parents are married. If not, the child has no right. Mother can abort. Right? So that's wrong. So these are the yardsticks they use. Equal responsibilities. Because they assume in the family, which family they're talking about, men and women contribute equally to the economics of the family and everyone. Therefore, men have the right to decide. And we say that doesn't happen either. Thirdly, the interesting argument, I have to talk about this because it's chromosomes. You know the government is lying when they don't know how many chromosomes contribute to making a baby. And even, when you lie, say 12 chromosomes, and then still talk about it, that's pushing it too far. Especially if you know I'm going to close for opposition, right? So they talked about chromosomes, and they also told you that because the baby that's going to be born has equal contribution of chromosomes. So, which means that every child will do equally, half father, half mother. You have to abort child like that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I need not say thank you.